You know, I was as tense as you before I learned to relax.
Although the pharmaceutical industry is currently at its peak, generating billions of dollars a year from new antidepressants, the presence of these kinds of drugs reaches far back into modern American history.
Today, medical science recognizes that some folks aren't helped by relaxing exercises. In cases of difficult tension and nervous apprehension, doctors are now prescribing an ataraxic medicine. It makes those who fear they're about to quit feel like they're ready to begin, bidding their darkened spirits goodbye for the calming peace of a cloudless sky. Of all the states throughout this nation, the happiest by far is the state of relaxation.
Years ago, pharmaceutical pioneers like Elmer Bobst decided that the future of America's mental health might very well lie in a pill. Depression, insecurity, and shyness might be washed away in minutes via the right prescription. As companies like Warner Lambert perfected their drugs, they also perfected their message.
What does a day free of depression feel like?
Today, slick, big-budget advertising has come to dominate the antidepressant market, making the prospect of medicating behavior appear more and more normal each year.
Totally
felt like myself.
People are saying Paxil CR makes a difference in how they feel.
All day.
Ask your doctor about Paxil CR.
Sweetie, what's wrong? My stress hormones are really high. So is my anxiety. It's giving me tachycardia and hypertension.
As the pharmaceutical companies have perfected their message and made ever more powerful arguments for the medicating of behavior, the language of depression treatment has seeped into the fabric of everyday life to become an accepted norm.
Only your doctor can diagnose depression. Zoloft is not for everyone. People taking MAOIs or Pimozide shouldn't take Zoloft. Side effects may include dry mouth, insomnia, sexual side effects, diarrhea, nausea, and sleepiness.
The company Elmer Bobst made a success is now merged with Pfizer and makes one of the most popular antidepressants in the world.
Zoloft. When you know more about what's wrong, you can help make it right.
The antidepressant business has become so lucrative that new subcategories are being created each year, resulting in even more new mood modifiers being pushed into the market.
Worry, anxiety, and several of these symptoms for 6 months or more. You could be suffering from generalized anxiety disorder, and a chemical imbalance could be to blame. Paxil, the most prescribed medication of its kind for generalized anxiety, works to correct this imbalance.
It's that week before your period. The irritability, mood swings, bloating. Think it's PMS. It could be PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Those intense mood and physical symptoms the week before your period. Introducing Sarafem, the first and only prescription medication for both the mood and physical symptoms of PMDD. Sarafem can help bring relief.
But along with the popularization of antidepressants,
Call your doctor right away.
questions have arisen as well.
Medical condition. People treated with MAO inhibitors or thyroidazine should not take Sarafem.
There's been a lot of controversy, of course, about the use of antidepressants, that they actually sometimes up the level of suicide.
Children and antidepressants. The government scientific advisors recommended today that antidepressants prescribed for children should be labeled with the nation's strongest warning, saying the medication can sometimes cause suicidal tendencies.
The mother of 12-year-old Candace Downing says the new warnings come too late for her daughter. Candace hanged herself in January.
It is the worst thing you can imagine.
Candace had just stopped taking Zoloft.
After years of questions surrounding these drugs, the Food and Drug Administration was finally called before a bipartisan governmental review board.
This hearing illustrates a larger problem at the FDA, where too often drug companies trump parents, where medical evidence is suppressed, and where expert opinion is silenced.
The vast majority of clinical trials have failed to prove that the medicines even help children at all. Now we have also heard that the agency's own drug safety analysts found a link between some antidepressants and suicidal behavior in children. Yet, my colleagues, these findings were suppressed.
Events which involved suicidal thoughts or behaviors were almost twice as frequent among the children and adolescents who received drug compared to the placebo.
There isn't any doubt that people, almost everybody thinks the drugs are used casually for people who really probably don't need it, and if there's a risk of making people worse, there may be no compensating benefit in those people. So that is a legitimate worry.
I am mystified that given the what is going on with this issue, that you seem to be incapable or refuse to decipher the difference between effects on kids and effects on adults.
I'm trying to reflect the views of the experts we had on our advisory committee.
I understand that.
They know perfectly well that these drugs have not been shown, according to our standards, to work.
The picture that begins to emerge in my mind isn't a pretty one, because it's one that says you're worried less about suicidality than in continuing to allow physicians to prescribe a drug that most studies show at best has no effect in treating depression.
If it doesn't work and increases the possibility of suicidal behavior in people under the age 18, why don't you do it? Aren't you supposed to protect the safety and welfare of the American people?
Yes.
The antidepressants are expected to carry what is called a black box warning on the drug's labels. The warning about increased suicide risk in young people would apply to all antidepressants, including Prozac, the only one specifically approved for children.
What assurance do we have that these recommendations from September will be followed or adopted?
You have the statement about what we're going to do, and in a couple of weeks you'll see the labeling change.
No. The statement says that the FDA generally supports the recommendations that were recently made. That's, I mean, my gosh, this is Washington. That could mean anything.
This is the advisory committee, right?
Right.
You don't listen to advisory committees if you don't want anyways. Take Accutane. We've been waiting for 4 years for certification and registry. 4 years and we still don't have it. After 2 advisory committees tell you do it, we're still waiting 4 years later. The FDA does what it wants.
More students than ever at NYU are reportedly getting prescriptions for antidepressants. The New York Post cites an internal report on undergraduate programs completed in December. It finds prescriptions for anti-anxiety drugs written by the school's psychiatrists have tripled over the past 5 years. Antipsychotic drug prescriptions are also up 173%.
The possibility that students might go off their medication during a weekend or over some period of time. In fact, that's extremely normative. For high school or college students who've been prescribed medication for depression, anxiety, or some other disorder that might be connected with suicide, those students at some point in time are likely to go off their medication, either through collaboration or consultation with a healthcare provider or on their own. Perhaps they are feeling they can do it on their own at this point. They don't want to see themselves as impaired and in need of medication to be, quote, normal, and they're going to try to function without the medication in their system. In most cases, students who do that or people who do that are going to encounter fairly substantial difficulties. If the support structure isn't in place to deal with those difficulties, the results can indeed be fatal.